everyone, and welcome to BookTrib's 15 Minutes with, a Merrill Moss Media production. Today we are thrilled to welcome best-selling mystery and thriller author Stacy Green. Stacy's a huge fan of crime shows and suspense thrillers, and she's written the best-selling series Delta Crossroads, as well as the Lucy Kendall series, a few standalone novels, a couple of short stories. So she's definitely one to talk to, and we're excited to talk to her today. Most recently, though, she has released Killing Jane. You can find her on Twitter and Facebook. Of course, her website, stacygreenauthor.com. Thank you so much for joining us, Stacy. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. So let's first chat about Killing Jane, which I have right here. Tell me a little bit about the story, the characters we're meeting, what's going on.
Well, the story is set in Washington, D.C. It's definitely a crime thriller, and it introduces Erin Prince, who is a rookie homicide detective. She's kind of got a little bit of a chip on her shoulder. She's from kind of a Washington power family, and she's the black sheep of the family.
Oh, boy.
So she kind of has a lot to prove. And the chip on her shoulder is kind of by design because she's got a whole arc for her series. And she is called into a pretty gruesome murder scene, and they quickly kind of find out that the killer is at least a fan of Jack the Ripper. And then as the story goes, fairly quickly they realize that the killer could be either a woman, or it could be someone who is a fan of the idea of Jack being a woman, which is one of the more interesting Jack the Ripper myths. So Erin and her new partner, who is a really experienced homicide detective, and who kind of intimidates her, have to solve this murder quickly before another one happens. And of course another one does happen. And so it's the first start of Erin's series, and introduces her and her family and the various dynamics that are going to play out.
Wow, interesting. So I take it the inspiration and the writing behind it is your love for the myth of Jack the Ripper.
Yes, partially. I mean, he's always sort of fascinated me.
Okay.
I think it's a really interesting serial killer, simply because, it's still unsolved, and he's such an enigma, and he can still kind of strike fear in people's hearts. I know there's many theories, and many people think they've solved the case, but so I think there's so much you can do with it. But I wanted to do something. I'm not trying to add to the Whitechapel murders. I wanted to do something kind of modern day, because a lot of people are into serial killers, unfortunately. And serial killers kind of really, unfortunately, inspire other serial killers. Mm. So I just started thinking about that. And in my research, I came across the idea that Jack might have been a Jill or a Jane. And that idea really latched on and wouldn't let go.
Interesting. So interesting. What about the character of Erin Prince? Is she based on someone for you? Just a character that came to you?
She's a little bit of a lot of things. Part of her is based a little bit on me. Not that I'm a cop or ever have been, but some of her family stuff and some of her just sort of her insecurities are in part based on me, and she is partially inspired by some female cops that I have had the privilege of interviewing and spending some time with. So she's kind of a big melting pot of different people.
Interesting. So will she be appearing in future novels? You said that she has an arc, so... Yes,
this is the first book in this series. I'm actually working on the second book now. And she has we have at least 3 to 5 books that we're planning on doing.
Oh, wow.
So she has a pretty specific arc. And I can't say too much about it without giving away book spoilers, but definitely more books to come.
So you talk about the title character of your other series, which is the Lucy Kendall series. You talk about her a little bit in Killing Jane. If you've mentioned on Facebook that Lucy Kendall might make an an appearance in the next Aaron Prince novel. Can you talk a little bit about that at all, or?
That's something we're still kind of deciding because at the time I hadn't actually sold Killing Jane. I was going to go ahead and continue to indie publish or self-publish.
Right.
And this opportunity to sell it and work with this publisher came along, and I couldn't pass it up. So we could run into some possibly rights issues, and I don't want to do that. If we can figure out a way to do it, definitely, I think it would be a good carryover, and I would love to see Aaron and Lucy sort of come face to face. So it's still definitely a possibility.
Okay. So can you tell me a little bit about your background, kind of how you got into writing? Because sometimes with everything that everyone does in their lives, they're just so busy. How do you fit it in?
Well, I'm lucky enough. This is my job. It's full time. I went to Drake University for journalism. I'd always wanted to be a writer, but once I got to college, I sort of kind of let it go and went into magazine journalism and sort of forgot about fiction. And then I went into advertising when I graduated, and it really wasn't until I became a stay-at-home mom in 2005, and then I started writing again. And in 2008, I had a friend kind of really push me into getting serious about it. And fortunately, the self-publishing or indie publishing sort of revolution was going on, and I was able to kind of get my foot in the door that way. But I was a stay-at-home mom at the time, and my daughter would have been about 3.5. So it was working around her schedule, preschool. And then once she went to school, I have 4 to 6 hours every day to work in a perfect world. So it's sometimes balance is really hard because, of course, we all have lives. We all have personal things happen. And it's just a matter of, for me, I have to love the story, and I have to want to write the story so that I know what happens. So that's kind of how I try to stay focused.
Okay. Well, now, how long have you kind of you live in Iowa? How long have you been there, and how does it at all spark your imagination? Does it lead to any inspiration for story?
Well, we moved to Iowa when I was 8, I think. So I've been here pretty much my whole life. And I grew up in a small town, southeast Iowa. It's being in Iowa has given me kind of a different perspective because I can see sort of what, cities are like in terms of, I don't know if I'd really call it metro in Iowa because we don't have that big of cities. And rural life, and it is very different. So you kind of get the feel of small town America.
Right.
So I think I have a handle on that, and sort of, the idea that small towns can be very gossipy and all that. I've had that experience. But really, I always wanted to set my books in bigger cities because I feel like more happens in bigger cities, and I always I choose cities that are far away from me so that I can do the research and learn about them. So I guess I'm kind of odd in that respect.
That's interesting. That's an interesting outlook to do something farther away that you can then learn from. That's really interesting.
Thank you. Yeah, I like to travel, and I've been able to do some traveling, and I'm a research junkie. That's really my favorite form of procrastination. So, I set the Delta Crossroads in the South because I love the South, and it gave me a lot of research time, and I made a lot of good connections. And I set Lucy in Philadelphia specifically because I wanted a death penalty state that wasn't New York. And this Erin is set in D.C. because I wanted that sort of big political background behind her. So that's kind of how my mind works, I guess.
Interesting. Well, it certainly does work. Now, you've written several books, all mysteries and thrillers. What is it about the genre that just really does it for you? What do you love about it so much?
I think it's trying to figure out who did it. And also, I always say that if I understood myself better in college, I would have gone into criminal psychology. I'm really fascinated by why people do the things they do, both good people and bad people. And, you know, my dad watched crime shows when I was, for as long as I could remember. And I think that sort of instilled that love of the genre in me. And that's just what really, really fascinates me. You know, on the first few pages of a book, if something terrible happens to somebody, I want to know who did it and why they did it. The why they did it is often more interesting than who.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. What about for you for reading? Who are there authors out there that you really love to read? Same genre? Do you go outside of the genre?
I don't go outside nearly as much as I should. I love reading Karen Slaughter, Lisa Gardner, Tammy Hogue, some of James Patterson's stuff, Michael Connelly, Greg Iles is really good. There's just a whole list of really good suspense authors that are, and of course Gillian Flynn, she's great. Tana French, I think, is really good. So there's a lot of them that I really like to read.
Absolutely. So you told us a little bit, but I just want to check in. Can you tell us anything about a new book in the works, something that's next, or is it only the Aaron Prince series?
Well, we are working on some behind-the-scenes television stuff. I can't talk too much about, I don't think. So we are planning, it's sort of, the part of the arc for the series is sort of an iconic killers theme. So it's going to be iconic killers either in history or in literature. And they're not going to be copycats, but they're going to be rather sort of theme. Okay. Killers inspired by that sort of thing. So the second book I'm working on now, the title of it is Hide and Seek. And it's spelled Hyde. And we have plans for the next 2 or 3 books as well in terms of which killers we're gonna go with. So yes, I'm definitely.
Okay, well that's exciting, and we will definitely look out for that. I want to say one more time to everyone, Killing Jane, go grab it. It's out now, and it's wonderful. You want to check it out. I can't thank you enough for joining us today. Unfortunately, it does go by that quick, and our time is up, but I do hope we get to talk again. Thank you so much, Stacy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining, everyone. Have a good night.